Hi, welcome to Hooks Epstein Gallery's first virtual conversation with artist Sandi Seltzer Bryant and composer Mary Carol Warwick. I'm so glad y'all can join us today. I'm going to have Sandi introduce herself and then Mary Carol, and then we were going to go from there. So Sandi, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, and everybody, thank you for tuning in today. This is different because of COVID. I've always wanted to be an artist. I got my BFA at Carnegie Mellon University in 1974 in painting and printmaking, and I've been a studio artist ever since. I have had representation throughout the country, in Houston with the Mercury Gallery for 34 years, and the last 5 years here with Hooks Epstein. I've been very fortunate, and I founded Winter Street Studios, which is now about 16 years old, and which has become Sawyer Yards, and that's where I make my art. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to produce my art my whole life.
Hi, I'm Mary Carol Warwick. I have been playing the piano and writing music since I was 4. However, unlike Mozart, it was not great music. But I did my undergraduate work at a small private school in North Carolina near college. I did my graduate degrees, master's degree and a doctorate of musical arts at Florida State University. And I did my postgraduate work, which is my most important study, with great American composer Carl Floyd. And I just spoke to him this past week. He's in his 90s and he is still with us, mentally as well as physically. So after my graduate studies with Carl, I wanted to write opera, always, and he, being a great opera composer, introduced me to and recommended me to Houston Grand Opera. So far, I've been commissioned by them to write 8 operas for children. And from that I branched out. I've written lots of, I guess my specialty besides opera is vocal chamber music. That is for voice and any kind of collection of instruments. And so today I'm very happy to have this collaboration with my dear friend Sandi.
Likewise.
Okay, so during this conversation, if the viewers out there would like to ask any questions, please pop them into the comments and I will try to get to them. We're going to get to them after myself, Yvonne Garcia, the director of the gallery, asks her questions, and then we'll go from there, okay? So one of the things I want y'all to discuss is y'all have been trying to work together to collaborate on something with Sandi's work, Mary Carol's compositions. Tell us a little bit about that and how that even came about and why it happened now. So,
Well, I will start with the byproduct of COVID. I think the only good byproduct so far of COVID is that, as you had said, Yvonne, Mary Carol and I for 30 or so years have been friends and have always said, oh, we need to collaborate, we need to do this, we need to do that. And it just so happened that when we were talking one day, she was telling me about all the commissions she was doing and how wonderful it is to be isolated right now and be so creative. That is one advantage that artists have. We don't need a lot of people around, a lot of social interaction. So she was saying how productive she's been, and I said, oh, I have this show coming up in September. Wouldn't it be great if we could do something? And she said, yes. And I sent her all the images that I had, the work that I had produced, and Mary Carol, you can take it from there.
Well, I had seen Sandi's work before in homes where people have bought it and proudly display it. And also I went to her warehouse and saw a lot of her work there. I've always been impressed with her creativity. Everything is different. She never seems to be stuck in one place. And that's the way I feel about my music too. I don't ever want to write the same thing 600 times like Vivaldi did. So she sent me the images and the colors. I was so inspired by everything. I just spent a lot of time looking at everything over and over. And then I decided I had to synthesize all these images into my mind, how I would musicalize what I was looking at. I decided that her main colors were the icy blues, even white with a tinge of icy blues. And then that was contrasted with the dark of the lava. Is that what?
Correct. The interpretation is correct.
So the lava then, the brown, the deep color, and then that icy color. And I decided, since it was about Iceland, that everything should be ethereal, ungrounded. All the sounds should be not rich like an orchestra. So I scored it for flute and piano and cello. But the sounds were too rich. I mean, it sounds like going to any chamber concert. So I experimented with the MIDI sounds, and that's something that was just what I wanted, icy. And I had done a lot of research because I wanted to know, I wanted these things in some way, the music and the paintings together, to relate to Iceland. Her paintings definitely did, but how could I make my music relate to Iceland? So the research took me to the Icelandic chants and history of the music in Iceland. It's not very expensive, I must say. But there's classical music and folk music. A lot of it was influenced by European dances and Gaelic monks. So I found some traditional chants that I liked, and I thought I would incorporate them into the music. So the music is a blend of a classical European sound which represents the lava because it's deep. It was originally scored for the cello, so it has more resonance. And then the flute, I used the flute to play the traditional Icelandic chant. And I introduced each of them separately, and then in the middle I weave them together for a rich tapestry. Because she did that in her paintings. Some of them just had the ice or the lava, and then others are woven together. There you are.
That is awesome.
So can we hear a little bit of the composition? Because I know you brought your laptop.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. For those of y'all can go onto our Facebook page. If y'all scroll down a couple of posts, you should be able to see the video, the exhibition video of Sandi's show, and Mary Carroll's composition is overlaid on that. It's really beautiful. But for those of you that have not seen it, we are going to play it now, a little bit of it.
Okay.
Do you want to turn it up? That's good.
And
I do want to add, I feel very fortunate because I have been able to attend many performances of Mary Carroll's music that have been in Houston, and then a couple that have been archived, and I have watched. And I'm just more than elated that we were able to do this collaboration because not only because she's my friend, but because she's an outstanding composer, and I feel very privileged and honored to do this, and lucky to have a friend that's so creative and talented. So, and I also look forward to more collaborations. May I put that in? Plug that in.
so Mary Carroll, as the music's playing, can you tell us a little bit, I guess the right word would be cadences and things like that? Like,
This is the theme for the lava.
okay.
It's richer, deeper, thicker. And everything is round too. You can feel a rhythmic flow that's round.
In other words, she got the imagery perfectly. When I listened to it, I went, she really got it. She really got me. I was not even apprehensive that she wouldn't, but it's really just so fulfilling when you know that another artist in any medium understands what you're projecting and what you're putting out there. Because, especially as an abstract artist, and I don't title my work, and I work them in all directions, and I find that that's very important to, I mean, my philosophy, of course, is not to pigeonhole people into thinking every thought I have, just to, if I said 3 chickens and a duck, everybody would, even though it's an Icelandic series, which is actually very, more information than I normally give for a show. Normally I say new works, but this was so profoundly about Iceland that I had no other choice than to just go with it.
I have a question for Sandi. As far as your work, like what about Iceland inspired you while you were there? Because you were there for what, about 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, my work is usually about histories and my travels, and I usually just come back to my studio and maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years later, it comes out. I do not start with any preconceived ideas when I'm starting my work, but it usually somehow just sort of mulls in my brain and in my studio. And previously I've collected lots of papers and brown pigments from various places that I've traveled. And for some reason though, my daughter and I visited Iceland last August of 2019. And I came right back to my studio. I was so inspired, and I just had to get it right down from my gut. There was no choice. I just had to do it. And I did not know that I was going to do this body of work. And I just started, going for the gusto, which as I normally do. And then all of a sudden it appeared, and it was very clear to me that I had to continue on this. And the milky blues from the silica. It's curious enough too that I also did some research when I got back about the Blue Lagoon, because this is based on the Blue Lagoon, and the Blue Lagoon is really a commercial space, but my daughter somehow managed to get us into Hotel Silica, which is a private spa, and it was just so peaceful, and it was just us, it was very quiet. And I was just mesmerized by the silica that comes off of, well, first of all, I did research it and I found out that this is all man-made, and it's from a geothermal plant that produces energy, which I thought, oh wow, this is like a really good thing that has happened. And so this is really runoff. And it was like about 1976, don't quote me on any of my dates, that they started this project there. And then I think in 1981, a visitor went and she had some skin irritations like psoriasis, and went into this pool and it cleared up psoriasis. So then I think in the early 90s is when they started marketing, or maybe it was at some point they started marketing all these products, which is the byproduct of all of this. But it was just the lava rocks and the green moss and this milky blue, and it was just incredibly meaningful to me at the time, and just had to come out.
Okay. And that's going to lead into my next question. Is for a while you had been doing a lot of paper collaging, incorporating with some painting, but this show really took a turn when I and Jerry first saw it, and we were like, it was a good wow. You were going back to your roots, your painting roots. And I was, just wondering, was that something you were thinking about, or did it, like you said, or did it just happen?
It was organic, and the pieces that you're speaking about, which are the last several shows that I have produced, both at McMurtry and at Hooks, Epstein Galleries, had been a reflection of when I was traveling in the Middle East and in Asia, and I was collecting these handmade papers, and I was working with those and went away from the painting, and all of a sudden it was like I was incorporating all of that together, and then the painting, since I am a painter, my love of painting will never die. It became, and also because I do layer up and do histories, so it just made sense that now the painting, but it's more mixed media, and that there's much more paint than the previous several shows, and I can feel in my heart right now that my next paintings are also going to be more painterly. But like I said before, I never know. I don't have preconceived ideas. I don't start with photographs. I just go for the gusto, and the work tells me. We sort of have this dialogue. You know, I'm not by myself in the studio, but the paintings are talking to me. And each mark you make changes. So these paintings just happen to say more paint, more paint. And the other paint that I have used on this is there's many more iridescent colors that I have used, because that was the feeling of that silica there and all those minerals and the geothermal pools. And you just have to go with I have to go with what the paintings are telling me and what my memories are telling me. So yeah, and I'm always going to be a painter, and these definitely have more paint. But there is the collage element, there's the drawing element. It's very mixed.
One of the things that, it's interesting for visual and in music, how the same processes seem to be the same. And that's obviously, y'all are artistically inclined people. My question to Mary Carol is, when you were doing the composition, is it the same thought process? And also, how long did it take for you to compose the music for this show?
It took me maybe 2 weeks to do research. And I mean, not just the words of the research and the historic background, but to go online and to try to find the sound of the instruments that they use, the traditional instruments, and then to hear the music. So I spent 2, maybe 3 weeks mulling that over, listening to everything. And I actually take notes, because a lot of this is not written down, but I could hear it and write down what I heard. And that way I was able to, then I looked up whether some of these chants were copyright protected, because you have to be careful about that, or whether they were traditional. And so the chant that I used was a traditional chant. So of course it's been around since the 1600s. So we're okay with that. There's something after us today. And then after I had all of that together, I was very inspired. I kept looking at the paintings, and I kept writing, so I guess the process took maybe a month.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I found what is interesting is when you do, and I hope people do make appointments and come and see the art, because we are letting people in just a couple at a time, because we're very good at social distancing. We all have our masks. I even have masks. If you buy a painting, you get a mask about your painting. Anyway, a little PR promotion there. Anyway, but we just took them off so you could hear us today. But I was just, Mary Carol came last week to look at the paintings for real, in the flesh, and because they are so much better when you see them, when you see just an image from a photograph. And I was just thrilled that she got it even more. I mean, I was watching her watch them, because they do come alive with her music, but she got it. She really did get it. And to see them sort of flat like that, when you see them in person, especially with the iridescence and all the texturing and the layering that goes on, there's a lot going on in my paintings. So, but she figured it out.
Okay, is there anything else that y'all want to add, maybe, or?
Well, we're looking for future projects.
I was just thrilled because Mary Carol was like so busy on all these commissions. She was like, go and go and go and go, and my show was done. So I was like, well, we could do this, you know, if you, and it just, I mean, COVID really did work to our advantage this time. Mary Carol's always having a project, and I'm constantly working, but the good news was actually the synchronicity of it just came together. So,
Perfect timing.
For perfect timing, and yes, we are fans of each other, that helps. But I wasn't nervous. I didn't even think to be nervous about what she was going to produce, which somebody, I think a friend or somebody, a collector had said to me, were you worried? I was like, oh, should I have been? It's like, I had trusted her. I knew that what if I didn't like it?
Well,
What do you mean, what if I didn't like it? Of course I'm going to love it, but I really did love it, sincerely.
but if you didn't, you would have said so.
Oh, of course. Anybody that knows me knows I would have said something, but gently. Anyway, but it was just never a concern, and I was really glad that we had this opportunity during this COVID crazy time to produce something magical. I think it's magical.
And we had been introduced to each other's works before,
Right.
so we had a taste of what.
Right. There was the trust factor, but there was, I mean, she could have also looked, and on the flip side, once I sent her the images, I never even thought of this till now, but you could have said, oh, I think I'll pass. You know? And what would that break my heart? So I guess either we're arrogant or just really two committed artists that can trust each other.
Yes.
And I'm not a good collaborator. I can tell you, I do not share well my art in terms of working with other people. So this is really exciting for me.
Well, I have one question that popped up in my head for Sandi. The piece that is in front of the camera, can you tell us a little bit about that piece, how you came about that? And I know it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle for those of y'all that don't know.
Well, interestingly enough, okay, this painting I have been working on for a long time but I had gotten this concept and I don't want to give you all the information, but there is the lagoon, and then there are the images that I'm using to represent the lava rock. Okay, but when I was working on it, I was thinking, also because I was thinking, okay, there has to be something else going on here too, and I was doing them on these small individual canvases, and I just started work, because my work does go in all directions when I'm working it, but this time I actually pulled them apart and put them in different ways, so, and they're hooked together on the back very easily to be screwed and unscrewed. And so I was thinking, what if whoever buys this piece can just make it their own version of whatever they want, because I have found that collectors come to me after they've owned my piece and they'll turn it or they'll look at it a different way and they'll say, oh, this keeps getting better and better, and they see it in a different way than they first saw it, and I thought, well, this is even giving them more of a space to do that in. And so you can take it apart, you can put it together whichever way you want. You can make 2 or 3 paintings out of it. I'm okay with that. And because I don't sign my work on the front, I always sign it on the back, because in my opinion, my signature just gets in the way of the imagery. You can do that easily. So, I mean, it would be fun for somebody to have this and to play with it a little bit. And COVID mode, fast forward, which I wasn't even thinking about, everybody's doing puzzles now. And I'm not a puzzle person, but I'm thinking, oh, this is like a COVID painting, like for somebody, this is sort of like a COVID painting because people are so into their puzzles. So it's sort of like a puzzle, but there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the viewers out there, do y'all have any questions? If y'all have any questions, put them in the comments section and they'll start popping up. Y'all can start doing that now if y'all like. So I just want to thank both of y'all for coming on Saturday today, and it's a beautiful day, and if y'all don't have anything to do, drop by the gallery today. We'll be open until 5. We're open to the public on Saturdays. Wear your mask. We're open during the weekday, Tuesday through Friday, by appointment only. So call the gallery and you will get me, and we can make a time for you to come and view the work privately.
It's better in person.
Yes, and I guess if there are no questions, we're going to sign off. So once again, thank you, Sandi and Mary Carol, for coming.
Thank you for putting this together for all the viewers. But I also want to say the show closes the 17th of October. So you still have 2 more Saturdays to come by, or as Yvonne said, you can make an appointment privately too.
Okay, all right, thank you. So why don't we kind of lead out with the music and enjoy y'all's weekend, but why don't y'all come down to the gallery, pop on in and say hi. Sandi will actually be here until 5 too. So
Next Saturday and the Saturday after, come see me in the art. And we'll be playing near